Welcome, everyone, to the Defiant Podcast.
Great to be here.
We're diving deep into the latest in DeFi, entertainment, and sports, all brought to you by Defiant, the on-chain lifestyle sports brand.
Yep, we've sifted through the noise.
You shared some really interesting updates, and we've pulled out the 5 key things you really need to be aware of.
We're looking past just the headlines, trying to get to the so what for crypto and sports. Let's jump in.
Okay, first up, something pretty significant in the NFT world. CyberKongz, right? That big collection. The SEC investigation into them. It's been closed. Why is this a big deal?
Well, look, it's not just that this specific case is done. It's more about what it might signal.
Okay.
It could hint at how the SEC is thinking about NFTs now, especially, the ones focused on community, on utility.
Rather than just speculation.
Exactly. Not just pure financial instruments. If you kind of connect the dots with other regulatory talk, it might suggest a bit more breathing room, space for these projects to actually innovate without constantly looking over their shoulder.
So for listeners, that could mean maybe more creative NFT projects coming down the line?
Potentially, yeah. More engaging experiences.
But it begs the question, right? Is this just CyberKongz getting lucky? Or is it the start of something bigger, like a real shift in how regulators see these things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's definitely something we need to keep an eye on.
For sure.
Because, let's be clear, this is a positive sign, but the overall NFT rulebook still very much being written.
Got it. Okay, moving over to DeFi now. Solana's been, on a tear.
Absolutely.
4 days straight, I read, topping all other chains in 24-hour DXX volume. That's pretty strong.
It really is. And look, this isn't just a flash in the pan, right?
Doesn't seem like it.
This kind of sustained DAIC volume, it really highlights the impact of Solana's speed and, crucially, those low fees.
And the ecosystem growing around it.
Definitely. What's interesting is how it's directly challenging Ethereum. Ethereum's dominance in decentralized trading isn't quite as secure, perhaps.
So for anyone trading DeFi, this makes Solana, a very real alternative to watch.
It's even actively used, yeah. It's proving itself.
It's moved beyond just potential.
Yeah.
Feels like we're seeing real, tangible influence now.
Precisely. And, ultimately this competition, it's good for users, drives innovation, maybe pushes fees down everywhere.
Good point. Okay, sticking with the regulatory theme for a moment. Reports are coming out that the SEC has actually dropped some major crypto lawsuits.
Yeah, against targets that seemed pretty high profile not long ago.
That feels like, it feels like a potentially big shift. What could be behind that?
It does feel significant. Could be a recalibration, maybe. Shifting focus. Or perhaps they reevaluated the strength of those particular cases.
And the impact for the space.
Well, it might mean renewed activity in some areas that felt risky before. Possibly opens doors for new token launches, fundraising, that sort of thing.
And there's always a but with regulation.
Always. Dropped lawsuits don't equal a green light, right? Doesn't mean instant regulatory clarity across the board.
Exactly. Need to watch closely, but don't assume it's open season.
Prudence is still key. Definitely.
Okay, let's pivot. NFL time. There's chatter about a potential trade involving Jalen Ramsey, Miami Dolphins. What's the story behind the story there?
Yeah, look, when a player of Ramsey's caliber is potentially on the move, it usually signals something bigger about the team's direction.
Like what?
Well, think about the Dolphins season, the cap situation. Moving a star defender like Ramsey, it could suggest they're looking at a rebuild or at least a major retooling.
So for fans, it's a reminder of the tough choices teams face.
Absolutely. The financial realities, the long-term strategy, it's complex. It shows that harsh business side of pro sports.
Yeah, you see big names move, and the ripple effects can be huge.
For sure. Performance on the field is just one piece of that puzzle.
Okay, finally, let's end on something really positive. The rise of flag football and this young athlete, Makena Cook.
Yeah, Makena's story is great. She's, a sophomore in high school?
I think so, yeah.
Already won back-to-back golds with the US 15U junior national team. But what's really cool is her advocacy.
Right, she's pushing for flag football to become a divisionized sport.
By the time she graduates, and she's pumped about it being in the 2028 Olympics. It just shows the sport's growing legitimacy, the momentum it has.
It really does. It's exciting to see a developing sport gain that kind of traction.
And for listeners, it's a great example of how sports evolve and how young athletes can really shape that future.
A fantastic story.
Definitely raises questions about where investment and attention might go in the sports world moving forward.
Okay, so quite a mix today. We had potential regulatory shifts in crypto, Solana flexing its muscles in DeFi, then potential NFL shakeups with Ramsey, and the really inspiring growth of flag football with athletes like Makena Cook. Lots to think about.
A lot indeed. What stood out most to you? What connections are clicking?
Yeah, good question. And here's a final thought for everyone listening. As these alternative sports like flag football gain more legitimacy, how might that influence, say, talent development or even funding models within the more traditional sports over the next decade or so?
Ooh, interesting angle.
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us today on the Defiant Podcast.
Powered by Defiant.
Catch you next time.